I really hate this culture. This worship and celebration of being taken advantage of and using morals wrongly to attack quote-unquote oppressors or people who are stronger and more powerful than you. Because frankly, that is what it really is. But frankly, this is what it really is. Proper English. Man. All it is a cowardly ploy to attack people who are stronger than you. And they use the guise of people's bad actions in order to empower that stance. Look at the church, for example. There is a scenario they call church hurt, when elders or members who have been there for a while, or even pastors, come against a particular member and a conflict brews up and the member has to leave the church. And because of that, the person begins to question God or Yah, as I call him. And as the Bible says, his name is actually. And attribute all these pains and drama to him, even blaming him and saying that, or asking why this happened to me. You're supposed to be good, Yah, or good God. Why is this happening to me? Now answer that question right here. Yah had nothing to do with you being mistreated. However, you can only be mistreated if you operate like someone who can be mistreated. How often do you see lions preying on other lions? Or tigers preying on other tigers? How often do you see a falcon preying on another falcon? The same way, how many times do you see a sparrow preying on another sparrow? Or a rabbit preying on another rabbit? Now some people will hear that and say, well, but therefore it's supposed to have equality. I would say no. Because one rabbit could be stronger than the other rabbit, but it's still a rabbit. And this brings the truth of equity, not equality. A rabbit or a lion should understand, one, how to respect other animals, and two, how to carry himself in a way that is respectable to ensure that he will not be put in a position to be continually disrespected. And this goes to man as well. If you operate like someone who's vulnerable, people will take advantage of you. And this is why I consider this victim culture to be blatant foolishness and very counterproductive. Because how can you stop a progression of things happening to you in that regard by operating like the very thing that calls and warrants for that kind of action be done to it or done to that person? If you walk around with your head down and have low confidence, people obviously feel compulsion to question your low confidence. And then if you are feeling proud in that low confidence, or in that vulnerability as they call it today. Yes, people will tease you. Yes, people will try to rub salt in your wounds or jeer you or bump you, verbally or physically. But also, someone who critiques you, and this often happens in regards to people with these kind of mental positions. Even the act of someone critiquing you shows up like someone is attacking you. And this is why I say people who operate with victim culture have a high tendency to be narcissistic as well. Because they use their position and the sympathy or the empathy of others as a way to empower themselves. To put themselves in a position of being above reproach and to not be disputed with. Oftentimes when you watch people having conversation or debates in the street and they post on social media, and you ask a woman in regards to her stance or why she hold a particular position, i.e. anything women-centric or feminist related, the ploy of hurt always comes up. Why should a person want to oppress me? Or why should a person want to hurt me? Okay, let's deal with the meat of the matter. Because mind you, we as young men growing up who were bullied before or who were picked on before had to come to that conclusion ourselves. Why are we being picked on? Why are we being picked on? Now if someone says that you are weak and they know you're not weak, or you know you can get stronger, instead of sitting there and sulk in your weakness, the old school people used to go and get stronger. So a boy who is being picked on in school, you pick up boxing, you pick up martial art. The Karate Kid is a perfect example of this in pop culture. But mind you, and this is why I love characters like Mr. Miyagi and other characters like that, who are also wise as well as strong, or portrayed that way in the movie. They teach you strength, but they also teach you reason and logic in having that strength. Because the same way strength could be used as a medium of oppression, so also, and more so, can also be weakness. What do you think is the real reason for the riots and all these other stuff that happened in regards to the quote-unquote George Floyd incident? Is it really because of the injustice? Or is it because a lot of people identify with being a victim and celebrate that and then use it as a right to do whatever they wanted to do? It's no different from a child who grew up in a bad home and will use that as a reason to be rude, or to be belligerent, or to be disagreeable. It is no different from a woman, especially these days, using her past bad relationships as a stepping stone and a podium to then attack, torment, and frustrate men who engage with her afterwards, or men who she dates afterwards. It's no different from leaders who were oppressed before, using their position to victimize people who appear like the people who oppress them. And there's a reason for that. Hence why I say weakness is far more used as a ploy to attack people or to create oppression than strength because it festers in the fear or the paranoia of being put in that position again. Frankly, that person has never sat down with themselves and walked through the feelings and the emotions that they exhibited and felt in that particular scenario or those particular scenarios. And this is why a lot of these people exemplify anger when questioned on their accountability and on their strength or the develop of their strength. This is why I personally hate and hated the advocacy of coddling people who experience traumatic experiences. Because when you coddle them, they see the coddling as power and the attention as currency. And if somebody learns to feed on that for their confidence, they will use that until proven otherwise. And this is why we people, especially in the Black community, continue to communicate victimhood as a reason for them doing the wrong things that they do. Oftentimes, especially in the church, pastors would use an oppressive hand to negate their fear of having their church split by opposition. You will oftentimes see women who rather become controlling and dominate over their men that they are dealing with because they are afraid of being put in a submissive role again. Because she thinks that her being in a submissive role to begin with was the real cause of her oppression. It's no different from a person who is afraid of conflict trying to deal with conflict. If you are afraid to fight, how can you deal with fighting? Of course you can't. You will vilify fighting. And it's the same way, people who see strength or the exercise of strength as evil will continue to communicate strength as evil. Now, how do we solve this problem? It's simple, really. But the two elements necessary to solve this problem are oftentimes offensive to people who have a victim mentality. One is this: strength, and the other is accountability. Now, in dealing with strength, you first have to become strong to be able to deal with yourself and critique yourself. And after years of practicing critiquing others instead of yourself and seeing yourself as the saint in the matter, it's very hard for someone to really critique themselves and see the bad in themselves. 2, they know how to face the truth. And the truth is simply this: people don't owe you respect or empathy. You have to earn it. 1. And 2, you have to improve upon your strength, your inner strength, your inner character, in order to put yourself in a position that people's opinions of you do not offend you. Therefore, you have to know the weaknesses and the strengths of yourself, improve on the strengths, and negate the weaknesses. Then going over to accountability. Accountability simply means this: you have to continue on the path and be critical of yourself on the path to mastering said strength. Now, how can someone who's accustomed blaming others keep themselves in check when they have always seen themselves to be the hero or the protagonist? This is where the block usually comes. And when they get past that block, in not seeing themselves as a perpetual saint, seeing their strengths and their weaknesses, the good and the bad of them, working on the good and negating the bad, and being accountable in continuing the path and maintaining that moral stance of actually being good, then and only then they will no longer be victims.